Hey everybody, I'm Jack Rita. I'm a designer on Dune themed games and expansions. And in this video, I wanted to give my ranking of the different faction alliance abilities. So we have the 12 factions here, and they all have alliance cards. And when you are allied with a particular faction, they give you the alliance card as a little reminder of the special perk you get as an ally. In some cases, it's an ability or an advantage that you get if the other faction to which you are allied okays it. So things like the prescience, they may assist you by forcing your opponent to show them one element of your battle plan. Same with the voice, and many of these they Fremen may let you not be devoured by the worms, stuff like that. But generally speaking, these are going to be things that you will get to do. There are always going to be an occasion where maybe you are going to backstab your ally, but it's not terribly common. So let's take a look at these, and you can weigh in the comments with where you agree or disagree with how I shake these out. So we're going to start off with the number one. We're going to go the best, what I think is the best, most consistently best alliance ones, down to the one that I think is most consistently not the greatest. And then we'll see how it goes. In some of these cases, he was pretty close between certain numbers, but I just went with my instinct. So we're going to take a look here, and we're going to grab for number one is the Bene Gesserit. I think that most players really love the voice, and having access to the voice as the ally of the Bene Gesserit is a pretty sweet perk, and that means that in that battle phase, all of your battles between with you and your ally, the Bene Gesserit, are going to have the voice, barring a Karama canceling that effect. And I think it is arguably the strongest battle advantage in the game. So having both factions in the alliance able to employ the voice to compel an opposing faction to use or not use a type of weapon or defense or a specific special weapon or defense is especially powerful. A lot of players really love what they call the positive voice, which is, you must play a shield. And that is when they know you have a shield, or at least they suspect that you do, and you're planning to use poison. So not only are you going to kill their leader and probably win that battle, but you are also forcing them to lose a pretty good treachery card. So, if they hear, do not play a poison defense, well, they know that there's going to be poison coming, and they know they can't play a snooper, so they don't bother most of the time. They don't bother playing that shield, and they know that they can save it later on. But with the positive voice, they have to play that shield, and so you're essentially getting the same effect there of not playing a snooper. And of course, that only works if they have the shield. So again, if you know that, or you have good reason to know that, then it becomes really an effective thing. So as an ally, it's pretty great to have the voice, and I think that is one of the most compelling reasons that the Bene Gesserit are your ally. Um, Number two for me is going to be prescience, and it was close between two and what we'll see as number three, and that will make sense in a minute. But I love having that battle advantage knowledge of being able to know what the weapon's going to be, what the defense is going to be, and in a lot of cases, just what that number is that they're going to dial. It lets you know what you have to do. And if the Atreides are your ally, then you've got a lot of card knowledge probably at your disposal. You're able to do a better job in the bidding phase of getting the cards that you want. All right, if I have to spend a lot of spice, at least I know I'm getting something good. So that's a sort of soft advantage. But for me, it's gonna all boil down to winning those battles, and I think that the battle prescience is a very effective advantage for helping you to do that. So I really enjoy having that as the ally of the Atreides, and yeah, so you can see where if these two factions are allied with each other, that's a very potent combination. Though there are drawbacks, and of course I do have Power Alliance videos, and this is one of the earlier ones that I did. And there's a lot of strength to it. Some of my friends call it the Cursed Alliance, not necessarily because it loses a lot. It's a curse, I think, for everybody else. So yeah, let me know. Let me know if you agree with that. Let's move on to my number three here, and what do I think is the third? This was almost number two for me, and that is the Emperor. I think that consistent wealth is really, spice is the key um, to winning this game. Getting spice and using it, because that leads to treachery cards, but it also leads to shipping in bulk, spice styling, because I play advanced far more than I do basic. So that spice is especially useful. But there's also the added benefit here. This doesn't get talked about a lot, just because the access to the wealth is just so great. But the emperor being able to revive three additional forces for you, so that you could potentially have six forces revived in a turn. That's a big deal. I think it's a really underrated element of the Emperor Alliance, and it lets you dial big in battles in the previous turn, knowing that you're going to be able to get six forces out. And really, the Emperor can pay for all of those forces because they can just give you the spice for the up to the first three revival, and you're going to get at least one free, no matter who you are, unless you're Chom. And then another three. So, and then of course with Chom, that's actually getting six out. That only costs six spice, so it's a really good deal. So I think that this is why the Emperor scores so high. And again, I was really kind of going back and forth. I do like both of these. I think this becomes a really compelling alliance because the Bene Gesserit, they're not rolling in spice most of the time. So having that is great because they can buy those worthless cards in advance and use them as Karama. This, of course, also is a nice alliance because the Emperor with their Sardaukar having that battle prescience, and then knowing that, again, with the bidding, saying, okay, yeah, I do want to, I can outbid everybody most of the time. So I want to make sure I'm getting something good. So yeah, that's kind of where I stand with that. So let's move on to number four. And remember, this is just ranking of the advantages themselves. So I mean, it's not necessarily these are this is the order of factions that I would want to ally with. There's a lot more that goes into that. So I think that it's just these alliance abilities that we're rear ranking here. And so number four for me is the Ixian one. This is a really nice one. And what it is after you're the ally to the Ixian, so you buy a treachery card. You can look at that and go, well, this isn't so great. Immediately discard and just draw the top card of the deck. And what makes this especially impactful is that the Ixians have their bidding advantage, where they draw one more card than would normally be up for bid in the bidding phase, and they get to see everything that's going to be up for bid. And they can take one of those cards, or they have to take one of those cards, and they either put it on the bottom of the treachery deck so that you're not going to see that for a while, if ever, or put it on the top. And putting on the top, a lot of times it just means it's not going to be in this bidding phase, but maybe in the next one. It also can be used against the Harkonnen to say, like, when you get your free card, it's going to be garbage, and here it is. Or if course, to harken under your ally, you can say, here's a great card. But that's true for everybody because of this alliance advantage. So the Ixians can top load that deck with a card that would have been up for auction or could have been up for auction, knowing that no matter what their ally ends up buying, if they buy a card, they can always ditch whatever they get and take that top card instead. And you both, probably both of you, at least they definitely know what it is. So if they're like, yeah, we want to get the Poison Blade into your hands, or we want to get this Karama card into your hands, well, they can almost guarantee it. So that is why the Ixian ranks so high. So I think that's a really great advantage. Alrighty, moving on to our next one. And for me, again, it was hard, and this could have fallen in one of a few slots, but I'm going to go with the Guild. I think that this half-price shipping is a pretty big deal. And again, it's if you're the Fremen, there's not going to rank so high because you don't need any of that. But the cross-shipping is also not to be underestimated. I think that can be very useful. It's not going to happen very often, but a lot of times, you find yourself, you went after some spice maybe down here, the storm is coming, and you're like, you know what, Guild, why don't we have a half-price shipment of all of these forces? And, maybe you've got 6 forces down there because you wanted all of the spice and you didn't have the carry-alls. So, yeah, I want to ship over to here with all of those forces, and maybe we go for the win or something like that, or at least we get out of the way of the storm. We're in a stronghold now. So I think it's a great utility advantage for any faction, except the Fremen, of course. Not as good for the Fremen, but really good for everybody else. To be able to have this. This is going to be useful almost all the time, getting those half-price shipping, and then the ability to cross-ship as a little bonus there. So that's why this rate's so high. Certain other things, they may be more situational, and they may rely on a lot of other factors where it'll happen. But I think, dollars to donuts, this discount. And, again, there's a soft advantage of the Spacing Guild is usually relatively wealthy, so they can help you buy cards. They can help pay for that shipping if necessary. They can pay for, they're paying for those things. That means that you have the spice to spice style, or you have the spice to get revivals. So yeah, having an economic ally. So that has to be a factor here as well. It's not just this advantage, but it's knowing that it's backed up by spice. And it's part of what makes the Emperor so great, although really all of it is the spice. That is the advantage. But yeah, having that sugar daddy of the Spacing Guild, in addition to these discounted rates, is why I think the Guild ranks this high. All right, moving on to our last one in the top half of these, and for me, it's going to be ECAS, and there's a couple of reasons why, and part of it is just the novelty of it. This is another thing where, it's all about the ambassador effect. So when somebody triggers an ambassador, ECAS can say, why don't you, as my ally, benefit from this effect? And that is going to be also, this is an example of one that is going to be very situational, because part of it is which ambassadors does ECAS have at any given moment, where are they being placed, who's triggering them. That can be a factor as well, because, for instance, if you have the Atreides ambassador on there, you getting to see the hand of the faction that triggers it, that's going to be mixed. I mean, that's not one that you're necessarily benefiting from, because the ECAS could look at it and then just tell you. So, but there are others, getting the spice for triggering the Emperor, or getting the shipment for triggering the Guild. Those can be very useful. And I think that this is just the fact that the ally can benefit from it is really strong. And so this one might have scored a little bit lower, but again, it's the novelty. And, they're always going to have the ECAS ambassador available to them to place, which means that you can benefit from getting Duke Vidal. So I think that's the other thing, is that I like that idea of ECAS can essentially get that 6 strength leader with no trader card into their allies' control. So this one, again, on another day, I might have said, you know what, this is going to be a little bit lower. But this is where I ended up with for my top 6. And now let's get into the other half, and we'll see how they fare. So the next one on the list for me is going to be House Richesse. And here they've got 2 things that they can do. So the one is benefiting from basically a cheap shipment using a no-field token. So it's going to be a shipment, usually 1 spice to ship 3 forces or 5 forces down, and it's not going to be a secret. You have to reveal the no-field token immediately upon shipping. But part of the reason that you do this is so that even if it's just for the 3, if you're getting the 3 shipment, that means that you are opening up the 5 shipment token for Richesse to use. And so it's a nice way to coordinate your efforts. And especially if you are, don't need to ship a large group of forces down. But occasionally the 5 is at the disposal of Richesse, and they can say, yeah, let's do that. Let's ship 5 for the price of 1, which is technically better than even the rate that the guild gets. So you have that limitation of only 5 forces, but if you're going into a stronghold, that's just 1 spice. And of course, if you do want to go into, the deep desert down, 5 forces for 2 spice is also pretty good. It's also still better than what the guild would pay for 5 forces. So that's great. But the other thing is they have this other one where Richesse can give you, their ally, a Richesse treachery card that they have in their hand at any time, as long as your hand is not full. And so this can be a big deal as well. And it means that you as an alliance are going to be trying to win those auctions where the Richesse player is trying to buy their own card. You can coordinate with them. What card should we put up? I'll help you buy it. And then if necessary, you can give it to me at any point. So it's not like with Chom, as we'll see here in a moment, where they can trade a card, but it's got to be it's only once per game turn, and it's in a specific time in a phase for them to do that. So this is a little more flexible, but there's a few hoops you have to get through. So this can be very powerful, but it's not as consistently useful as the guild is. So that's why the guild scores a little bit higher. Honestly, I enjoy this a little bit more, but because it's so situational, that's why it doesn't score quite as high. So that's where we are with that one. Our top one in the lower tier, and now we move on. And I am going to say that, and here again, it was kind of a toss-up between this one and the one that is going to be after it. But I am so partial to the Tleilaxu. If I'm not playing them, I do kind of like allying with them. And what's funny here is that really what's written here on the alliance card is really not that sexy. While they're ally, you may revive your forces and leaders at half price, rounded up. The reality is that they can revive your leader for free. So and probably you should have just put that on the card. So if we ever do an update to this, we'll go ahead and add that in there. It's a pretty important nuance that you can just get Casimir Fenring, out of the tanks for free. But the half price on the forces is pretty decent. But this is a sort of thing where there's some soft advantages behind this as well. And part of it is, again, it's an economic faction. So that is going to bolster this ability. And the Face Dancer is a wild card. So, I know I said I was trying to focus mostly just on the abilities, but it's hard to fully separate those things. So while this, again, on the surface just doesn't look like it's that useful or interesting, you're saving 1, 2 spice for force revivals. That's not great, but the free leaders is really great because you can use a strong leader, and if it does get killed, you're not really in that much trouble because you just get that leader back. But this is one that it might have scored here. In fact, let's put it there because I'm going to talk about the other one that almost booted it out. And again, I'm back and forth. I see the purple and I start to get, dizzy with excitement. So the one that I also like is Chom. So let's look at Chom here. And there's a, like with Riches, there's two things that are going on here. So the one is at the end of any phase, once per game turn, you can trade treachery cards with your ally, and so it has to be two-way. So you're not just somebody's not just giving somebody a card and not getting anything. There is some kind of exchange. Each faction is giving a card and receiving a different card. You could exchange snoopers, and this is something that I did do with Riches in a game. We wanted people to think that we were moving around artillery strike and the stone burner, and we didn't want anybody to know where it was, but all we did was we exchanged snoopers. So we ended up with the same thing, but we were physically exchanging the cards. And that's perfectly legal. But yeah, this ability says, because you can't really, if you're like, well, I've got the good card, and we're like, well, I need it. Most of the time, you're just out of luck. But with Chom, that can be amazing. And Chom, Chom doesn't have a hang-up about most cards in that treachery deck. The green sort of action cards, like Cheap Hero, Weather Control. Those sometimes people are like, oh, I got this. I don't know if I'm that excited about it. And Chom is like, well, I've got a 5-card hand size, so that doesn't bother me quite as much. But it's really the worthless cards that most factions are like, oh, I can't do anything with that, other than the BG. So here, if you're the one that has the worthless card, Chom can actually make use of it because every worthless card can either just be sold. Chom can just sell it and get rid of it for a couple of spice, but they also have, each one has a unique effect that Chom can unlock. And so, but it's also about like Chom. It's like I've got 2 projectile defenses, and you don't have any. So let's do a switcheroo here, and I'll give you one of those. You give me your worthless card, and everybody's really happy. And so that is really powerful, really effective. With Atreides in the game and trying to keep track of who has what, Chom can screw that up, and in just a wonderful way. And just depending on who their ally is, moving stuff around, keeping everybody on their toes. They may have, even without Atreides in the game, when oh, so-and-so has a snooper, but then you've switched this card, and you're like, I thought that was their only defense, but they might have a shield now, because I don't know. I don't know who has what now. So this can be very effective, but, just depends on what's going on. Chom is also an economy faction. So, yeah, now that I think about it, let's boot. This will be the right order. Chom should boot Tleilaxu down a step. So that's where we are on that one. Let's go on to the next one here on my list. And for me, it's going to be Morani. I think Morani. And here this is an example of, what do you get for losing? Most of the time, that's not what these faction abilities do. But with Morani, when you lose a battle as their ally, and as long as that battle had a winner, you get to keep one treachery card that you played in that battle that you would have been able to keep had you won. So typically what we're talking about is weapons and defenses, because that's what you get to keep if you win a battle. So yes, you've got the shield snooper, and but you've lost that battle, and everyone normally would be looking forward to seeing that hit the discard pile. But Morani, you're like, nope, I am going to hold on to that, and so. And here it's you may keep it. So this is kind of a different from the Berenges, may use the voice on your behalf. You can do this, and Morani can't do anything about it. Not that that's, again, it's not really a big worry for most factions. So this means that you can be a little more reckless. You can go into those battles. A lot of times a faction they're a little reluctant to get into a battle if they don't have certain information. They don't know something about your cards, or um, they're not able to doomstack by sending a lot of forces in and just out dialing. Here, they're like, all right, I'm taking a chance. I might not win this battle. And the reason that you don't want to get into those battles normally is because if you lose, you're losing those treachery cards. And here you're going to lose one if you're playing two. But you get to keep whichever one you think is better or more useful. And that, I think, helps to up the ante in the gameplay. And so that's why it ranks so high out of our bottom group. But yeah, this is you've lost a battle, so there's already issues. You're already suffering, so that's why it doesn't rank much higher. Should this have been a better one? Well, part of our reasoning for making it this was thematics. As Moritani were very much pariahs. Nobody wanted to be allied with them, and so it's a little bit of a punishment that is driven by thematics. And so maybe we get carried away with those sorts of things, but it's kind of what's driving the design process. All right, we're down to the last two. Who will it be? Well, it won't be the Fremen next, because I think that the Harkonnen one is just barely better. But again, this was close. And so the ability here is that if you're in a battle and Harkonnen is holding a traitor card for the leader that you're opposing, they can call that traitor. So normally, if I'm the Emperor and I'm allied with Atreides, and we're battling the Bene Gesserit, and Atreides has Wana Yui as a traitor card, they can't call that in my battle, but Harkonnen can, and they've got the 4 traitor cards, so it's more likely to happen. Although it doesn't happen very often. That's the issue. But, when you're in an alliance with a Harkonnen can say, why don't you go pick a fight with the Fremen, because they're holding a couple of Fremen leaders. And so you're increasing the chances that we can win that battle no matter what, cards are played or what's being dialed. There's a decent chance. There's going to be at least a 20% chance, and maybe much higher, depending on how many they hold or who's dead in the tanks, or what leaders have already shown up in battles elsewhere. So this can sometimes work out, but you gotta put a lot of effort into it. The stars have to align to some degree. But it was a close one, because, again, this is there's other reasons why you want to be allied with the Harkonnen, but they don't really tie into this too much. So that leaves us with the Fremen one. A lot of people are not thrilled with the alliance abilities of the Fremen. So what you've got here is protection from being devoured by the worms. So that just means you went after Spice, and then the next Spice blow, they drew a worm for that territory. And now you don't have to. But you don't get to ride the worm. So that's kind of a downer there. It would be nice if you could then also ride that worm. The real strength of the alliance with the Fremen is the 3-force revival, which is more useful for factions like the Guild, or the Emperor, or the Bene Gesserit, or Chom, who has 0 free revival. These others, they only have 1 free revival. Ixians also have 1 free revival, so they like this because they can get 3 of their cyborgs out. So yeah, you know what? Let's do this as well. Maybe it is. It's close. It could really. It just depends on how you're feeling. It's going to depend, though. I mean, with the if the Harkonnen, they're getting 1 extra free out. So that's not great. So then maybe we do go like this and say, yeah, you know what? It's not consistently great enough, because a lot of all the great houses, 2 free revival, 2 free revival, 2 free revival, 2 free revival. So, Tlilaxu, 2 free revival. They're not too worried about getting extra revivals from the Fremen. And then, of course, we do have the Fremen special victory condition, which I don't know how often that happens. You got that with the Guild, too, and the Guild is a little bit easier to pull off than the Fremen one is. So it's, you're like, okay, sure. Let's put that in there. Maybe that's what boosts this up. Maybe it does. Yeah, maybe we'll switch that back. So we'll say, okay, extra revival, maybe win with the Fremen. With an ally, it's easier for them to boot people out of the faction of the strongholds, the sieges where the Fremen don't want specific factions to be. So maybe you get your ally to help you to do that. And so if we can't win, at least we can prevent others from winning. And so that may be our final tally here. So yeah, that's where we stand. Again, let me know in the comments where your ranking differs. I did blur the lines a little bit, again, keeping in mind that the economic factions have got some unspoken perks that are built into being allied with it. But these abilities, this is still pretty close. Again, this might go lower just because all you're getting is a free leader, really. Yeah, saving one, maybe two spice. Maybe more. With Chom, it should be interesting because they only pay one spice per force, so it's like a bulk discount because they can bump that up to 5, and so you're basically paying 3 spice to get 5 forces out. So that's pretty good. But again, it's going to vary. How useful this is, it's going to just depend on who's allying with them. And there we have it. So that's the ranking. Let me know your thoughts. That's it for this one, everyone. Thanks for watching. We'll see you again soon.